A&P is a short story written by John Updike and published in 1962. Contextually, we have a 19-year-old narrator named Sammy who is working at an A&P grocery store, which in Canada has turned into a Metro now, but in the United States it was once the largest retailer of any kind, especially in the early 60s. Anyway, as Sammy's working the checkout counter, there are three girls that walk in with bathing suits on, and this is how the story begins. Immediately, he is distracted by them. He begins objectifying them, something that permeates through the story. First, by referring to the chunky one in the green two-piece bathing suit. He's so distracted, in fact, that he's unsure whether the crackers he's holding have been wrung in or not. Sammy makes a comment that they didn't even have shoes on, and immediately we as the reader realize that Sammy is caught in a tough spot. One of the big takeaways from this story is the topic of morality. Sammy is constantly weighing out his duty to his job and the policy of the store, but also his attraction to the girls. It's just a matter of time before we find out which avenue within him is stronger. The other two girls is the one with the chin that's too long, and then the one he refers to as Queenie. Queenie is the leader of the girls, and Sammy judges her by her gait and the way she carries herself. Her legs are referenced as prima donna, indicating that there is confidence and leadership in the way that she walks. Even still, the simile of a girl's mind being like a bee in a glass jar gives us good indication of how he views girls. Clearly, he believes they are deserving of the objectification since he believes they lack intellect. The description of Queenie is all positive, unlike the chunky one or the one whose chin is too long, and it is clear that he likes her the best. A new character is introduced named Stokesy, a fellow worker who Sammy remarks is similar to him in the way that he also seems to be staring at the girls, and the only difference between them is that Stokesy is married and has a family. Sammy references the sheep pushing their carts, which are supposed to represent the customers and, on a deeper level, society generally. The girls, however, walk against the usual traffic to indicate that they are different, not only in what they choose to wear in a grocery store, but the social conventions that they choose to ignore. Again, Sammy makes it clear that he's struggling with both the policies of the store and being attracted to the girls, since he comments on how oddly they are dressed, considering their store is 5 miles from the closest beach. Even McMahon, who seems to be much older than both Sammy and Stokesy, are staring at the girls. Because of this, Sammy says he feels bad for the kids and that they couldn't help it, making it sound like they can't help being pretty. When Queenie looks to purchase Kingfish fancy herring snacks, Sammy immediately imagines what her home life must be like. He imagines her parents having a fancy party, drinking fancy cocktails, and living a wealthy lifestyle. It is evident that his home life is drastically different. When Queenie goes to pay for the item with the dollar bill from her bikini top, suddenly the action is cute, and he's not bothered by what she's wearing. When his manager Lengel appears, we get some negative Christian imagery, as he assumes Lengel is dreary since he teaches Sunday school. Sure enough, Lengel approaches the girls and reminds them of the dress code. When he asks them to be decent, Queenie's response is that they are decent, and it's evident that she doesn't like the comment. Lengel, of course, means decently dressed, but Queenie's response makes it clear that she thinks of herself as a decent person, in other words, rich. The use of the word indicates that she sees herself and her friends as being superior to anyone who works at a grocery store, and in a position to serve her. Though Sammy is now contemplating being a hero, being chivalrous, he still refers to them as bikinis, which confirms his continued objectification of them. He rings up their purchase, and they are in the midst of leaving the store when Sammy turns to Lengel and quits. The expectation, of course, is that the girls will believe Sammy is their hero, and perhaps they can all leave the store together as friends. The reality is that the girls could not care less for the act. And they leave the store, and he's unable to find them in the parking lot. Lengel comments to Sammy that he'll feel this for the rest of his life, and that his parents won't be impressed with his decision. Sammy recognizes both of these truths. He will continue to be disappointed if he makes grand gestures that don't pay off in the end, and it certainly sounds like his parents rely on Sammy to work. The story ends with two more crucial points. Number one, Sammy's stomach fell, knowing how hard the world was going to be now, and he realizes how foolish his decision to quit was. But he has no choice but to follow through. The world will be hard because there's also the realization that he is not in the same economic world as Queenie and her friends, so he knows he will have to work harder. And 2. As Sammy looks back at the sheep, the ironic thing is that he's the real sheep. If the customers follow the herd, look where he is. Some things to consider would be the external alienation Sammy feels in comparison to Queenie and her friends, the expectation of what will happen as a result of his grand gesture of taking a moral stance, and the reality of what actually happens, the objectification of the girls, and Sammy's clear struggle between policy and attraction.